Dun 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 na 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 dun na na dun na 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 dun 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 na 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 dun na 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 dun 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 dun. Welcome everybody to Majora T Speaks RPG Edition. Great way to close off the year. 2020 has been a blast, hasn't it? And I'm here recording live from New York City, as you can tell. Very excited to have really dabbled in some great RPG goodness this year. I'm also drinking tea. That's for you, Terry. Thinking I'm not a tea connoisseur. Well, try some of my watermelon mint. So what better way to kick things off than with one of my personal favorite RPG series, Dragon Quest. But did you know before Dragon Quest it was called a certain other name, Dragon Warrior? Well, in my good friend Spencer's new channel, RPG Archive, over on YouTube and Apple Podcasts, him and I did a little archive of our experience and memories of the first Dragon Quest, aka Dragon Warrior. Here's a little excerpt, and be sure to check out his channel afterwards and drop a subscription for more RPG goodness. Let's take a look.
Welcome to the RPG Archive. This is the first ever entrant in the RPG Archive. So this will be very exciting. This is our podcast where we talk about RPGs in depth. And usually we break them out into several games. Today's a little different because we're playing one of the original RPGs. It's nobody's favorite, Dragon Quest 1. I'm excited to have with me Teddy from Majora T. Teddy, how's it going?
Hey, Spencer. Happy to be here.
Teddy's part of the inspiration for the channel, and this series, the Dragon Quest series in and of itself, is super important to us because it actually marks the start of our friendship.
That it does. I remember you checking out the Dragon Quest Swords video I did way back in the day, and that was a little goofy, but it's nice to see we've kind of found our path here in the YouTube video making system, and now we're catering that towards the turn-based RPG content, and in this case, Dragon Quest.
Yeah, this is going to be a great show. Before we get to it, let's get some plugs out of the way. We've got your channel, Majora T.
Woohoo! Majora T.
Any of your side channels you want to plug?
Just the Bud Mappers, our mutual podcast, me, Spencer, Alex.
Yeah, we cover
we map out games.
Yeah,
map out games.
If you want to see the maps of games, go to the Button Mappers. That's on iTunes, or not iTunes now. It's just Apple Podcasts.
And I'm working on Spotify. I'm trying to do the research.
Sweet.
But I'll get us there.
Yeah, and this show should be on that as well. I don't know if it's definitely not right now because it's the first episode, but it should be in the future. So make sure you check that out if you're listening to it in the past. Today, man, hell of a show. We've got the original Dragon Quest. This is the one that started a lot of people consider it the granddaddy of the JRPG, and maybe even just the RPG in terms of gaming. This is a hell of an undertaking to do, but it's also luckily a very simple game. So we should be able to cover it in one sitting.
Yeah. You can probably finish it in a sitting too.
Before we jump into any of the details, this is the first Dragon Quest, and this is like together. I mean, it's for me, it's like my favorite series. If in terms of like actual series of games, where does this stand with you in terms of like just Dragon Quest?
Series wise,
Yeah.
or the individual games? So this has been my top 3 series. I put it up there with Zelda and Shin Megami Tensei. And in terms of the games, I played this one after the fact. I had dabbled in 3, 4, 5, 7 and 8, probably before I dabbled in 1. But I have nostalgia for it because I played Dragon Warrior Monsters on the Game Boy Color way back in the day when I played Dragon Warrior 3. Very similar in terms of visual style, music. So you have that classic Koichi Sugiyama OST.
Yeah.
And, a lot of the tracks are familiar due to that.
Yeah, I did some research. Well, I was doing my research for this show, and I guess I kind of knew it, but never knew it like factually for sure. But apparently Dragon Quest Monsters was made after Dragon Quest V. Like that was the inspiration for
it. Yeah, there's like kind of an interesting timeline that Monsters falls between 5 and 6.
That's so interesting. And it's weird because of all and we'll get into this way later when we get to these other games. So when we get there. But Dragon Quest Monsters never really got like a big remake that we probably would want. So.
Not the remake we want. Yeah, it did get a remake, but just, Joker on the DS was kind of like a spin-off of the spin-off. So that was interesting. Yeah. There was the 3DS remake, but again, relegated to Japan. I actually own that, but yeah.
Yeah, we're still clamoring for it over here. Hopefully it comes out. But that'll be for another day. We're here to cover Dragon Quest or Dragon Warrior. No numbers, because at the time, it was the only one. Let's talk about it a little bit. So the first thing I want to bring up is Yuji Hori. He's the guy. He's the guy that created it. He's our grandpappy. I just want to get some little facts out of it. I'm just using Wikipedia, so there's nothing super detailed here. But Hori was born in and oh god, you're gonna have to do these because I don't know Japanese. Awaji Island, Awaji.
Spell it.
Awaji. Awaji Island, Japan.
Sure.
Graduated in the Department of Literature from Waseda University, and worked as a freelance writer for newspapers, comics, and magazines. Entered an Enix-sponsored gaming program contest.
It's a manga artist or manga competition, right?
No, programming.
Oh, interesting.
And programmed the game Love Match Tennis, a tennis video game, which motivated him.
That was his first, right?
Yeah.
The first video game through Enix. Cool. I think he also took a lot of inspiration for this game from Western RPGs. I know you said earlier in the program that this is like the progenitor of turn-based RPGs, especially. This was like, I think the real the chance for Japan to own the genre.
Yeah. Well, I found that so interesting. I'm glad you brought that up. So let's move over to that. I will say that he did Portopia Serial Murder Case. Never heard of that, but apparently it inspired Hideo Kojima to make video games, which of course he would go on to make Metal Gear Solid, which is one of my favorite series. But anyway, yeah, he did. He got inspiration from Wizardry and Ultima. So there's a real ironic twist here in that he took inspiration from Western RPGs to kickstart the JRPG phenomenon.
The irony, because we tend to think of like, the classic RPG is the turn-based one, but I think those PC genre of RPGs, like 80s PC games, kind of like are, I don't know the right word for it, like a time capsule of sorts, but one that like people just left in the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
Because like, there's a very niche fan base for that kind of game versus turn-based RPGs tend to be a bit more mainstream, which is bizarre because I remember we were talking 5 years ago about like turn-based RPGs. Are they ever going to come back?
Yeah. Now they're huge again.
Right.
Which is great. Good for us. Yeah, I find that super interesting. So obviously like those games started with the love of D&D, right? Like just people loving D&D and wanting to kind of make that into something that could be a video game.
Well, also about making this kind of the home console experience, because PC, you have a keyboard, you have a mouse, you can do point and click. With a controller, you can't really do much. So I think there was this idea of simplifying the experience, also kind of bringing it out of the arcades. You did have these kind of adventure games in the arcades where you had to keep popping the quarters in. He mentioned that he wanted this to be more of like a less stressful, story-driven experience.
Yeah. That's so interesting that he would bring that up, because it really is. Like, even to this day, one of the reasons I love RPGs is how not stressful they are. Despite, the storylines end up, especially nowadays, being like, this is the end of all time. Like, if you don't stop this warlord, he will rule space-time continuum.
Right, we're going to resurrect Satan so that he can spawn the demons of humanity.
But despite all that vision still rings true, that it's just like, it's not really stressful. Like, you can kind of go at your own pace. There's not a lot of timed button pressing, jumping, difficulty, stuff like that. It's more your pace, which I think I love out of this.
I think conceptually it's very well intentioned. In terms of execution of how well the first Dragon Warrior does it, well, we'll find out. Ah, yes. Dragon Quest. A very satisfying and endearing RPG, indeed. And definitely, it's a rough one, that first one, but it's not without its merits. A lot of people consider it the pioneer for the JRPG. And also, it had a radical team. It had, Akira Toriyama on the artwork. It had Yuji Hori in the whole story concept. And I think it's Koichi Sugiyama on the OST. I could be mistaken there. But they are the dream team in many regards. And many people know the name Akira Toriyama for doing the art for Dragon Ball. But he also does some great art for Dragon Quest. And this is my first installment in my memories of the monsters of Dragon Quest, specifically from an artistic standpoint, and also just in the game. So enjoy this next clip. Ah! Hi everyone, and welcome to the first installment in Dragon Quest Monster Memories, this time for the first Dragon Quest game. Some might know it as Dragon Warrior. I know it as also Dragon Warrior, but also Dragon Quest. And there's a lot of memories with this game. I bought this art book several years back at a comic book store in Manhattan, Dragon Quest Illustrations, and I got the Japanese copy. It was later localized and translated, but the memories are still there. The art is beautiful, and I did a video on it several years back, but I've kind of wanted to archive my experience with the games and be able to really show off a lot of the art that is in the book as I play through the games. As some of you know, I played through Dragon Quest 1 recently. My friend Spencer and I talked on it over on his YouTube channel, RPG Archive. He also uploads to Apple Podcasts, so good for him. So you can check us out there if you want to listen to my full thoughts on the game. But for now, I thought I'd have a nice chill session talking about the art and the monsters of Dragon Quest 1. So flipping through this book, I noticed that it's a little bit out of order. Just as you turn the page for Dragon Quest 1, the final boss is right there. So I'm going to jumble the order a little bit. I'm going to talk about the monsters sequentially as you see them in the game. So on the second page, on the very left is the slime, the icon of Dragon Quest, the emblem. Some might say it's one of gaming's greatest mascots. And I happen to like this slime, but in this game it's particularly unmemorable. There's a slime, a color code variant, red slime, and then another color code variant, metal slime. Obviously, many people know the metal slime as being the one that's almost invulnerable and will run away at the soonest possible interval. I've not found a way to kill a metal slime in the first game. They always run. But the other slimes are just easy. Even when you start the game and you're level 1, you come out and you battle a slime, you're not going to lose to a slime. That just does not happen. So, iconic, yes, but for being fodder for slaughter. Next up is the Draki. And there are several variants, including the Magidraki and the Drakima. As cute as this character is, I also find it particularly unmemorable. I can't think of any times I've taken serious damage from a Draki in Dragon Quest 1. I just kind of know it as the second major enemy unit that you fight in the game. Cute, though. We have a couple unmemorable monster units in the Ghost and the Scorpion, both of which have several variants in the Spectre and Poltergeist for the Ghost, and the Metal Scorpion and the Rogue Scorpion for the Scorpion. I don't remember anything about these. They were not memorable in this game at all. One monster that is, though, is the Chimera, also known as a Wyvern. This one has two variants in the game, including the Magi Wyvern and the Star Wyvern. And I found these a little more memorable because they're actually a decently challenging monster unit, especially as you get to the Star Wyvern. One of them casts Snooze and then also Mid-Heal. And so, and it also takes away a fair chunk of life when it attacks you. So I found that nice as a sort of challenge as you're going farther in the game, because you're kind of more attentive to the otherwise mostly grinding RPG combat once you come into battle with some of the more advanced wyverns. The Wolf is another unit I found particularly unremarkable. I don't find these units particularly strong. I do like the color palettes and they look cool, but they don't really bring much to the table. They come in variants of Wolf, Wolf Lord, and Werewolf. I do, however, really like the Skeleton in this game, and interestingly enough, this one has 4 variants, including Skeleton, Wraith, Wraith Knight, and Demon Knight. Although in the version I was playing, I believe it was called like a Shadow Knight or a Spectre Knight. It definitely wasn't a Shovel Knight. I like this one because it's, like the Chimera, very challenging, and one of the upgrades to the monster unit, as you keep fighting them, he gets a sword, so he does some serious damage as you progress further in the game. While the initial Skeleton isn't the biggest threat, the later ones certainly are. Okay, now we can turn the page and we have several monster units, many of which on this page are forgettable, but one that is not is the Dragon. There are a couple color-coded variants of the Dragon throughout the game, including the Green Dragon, the Red Dragon, and the Blue Dragon, but most people will know the Green Dragon from what they've played of Dragon Quest 1 because you can see it on screen blocking the princess in one of the caves. And it's a particularly memorable moment in the game. You save the princess from the dragon, and it ends up affecting nothing in the game. But the entire encounter was pretty cool. It has a high hit point gauge, so you're in for a decent battle, especially if you don't have the fairy flute. The later dragons are cool as well. I do like the red and blue ones in the Castle Charlock. The other 3 units on this page I find particularly unremarkable, but we can talk about each of them. The 2 underneath the dragon are the Droll and the Druin, with variants of Droll Magi and Druin Lord. These are cave dwellers, and they just honestly didn't do much. You'd think they'd be like high defensive units, but really they weren't much of anything. So I had no memories of these things other than, oh, these are weird. The Mage or Magician has potential here as a fierce, combative, magic-wielding enemy unit, but I don't think it lasts or leaves much of an impression by the end of the game. The variants of the Magician are Warlock and Wizard. And on the page next to it, it's entirely dedicated to one enemy unit with 3 variants, the Golem. Now, the Golem is not the first of that kind, but it's the most memorable one, and we see it in other iconic Dragon Quest spin-offs even, like Builders and Heroes. The first form of the Golem is called the Gold Man, and you see it on the southeastern continent and earn almost no experience but tons of gold when you destroy them. And then when you come to the town of Cantlin, you fight the Golem, and it ends up being a decent battle. It's relatively challenging, and you might need the fairy flute to take him down. In fact, you probably do. The third rendition of the Golem is the Stone Man, and is also found in the Castle Charlock. Really cool enemy unit. It's probably one of the most underrated, and a lot of people talk about the slime, but this one's pretty cool itself. And this takes us back to the first page of Monsters, where I'm going to skip the end boss for now and talk about one of the sub-bosses, which is the Axe Knight. So this one has several forms. The one you see on the page is the Knight, and then there's the Axe Knight, and then there's the Armored Knight. I believe the Axe Knight is one that you fight in the town of Hawk's Nest, and it's like an abandoned town, and there's like one random patch of swamp that you fight the Axe Knight on, and supposedly a really hard battle. I didn't have much of a hard time with it as long as your armor upgrades are good. They are relatively strong combative units, though. I do like fighting them. So not a bad monster by any means. And then at the top here we have the final boss of the game, the Dragon Lord, in two forms, the standard form and the final form. I won't say much about it, although it was a good boss battle, and I'll direct you to the feature-length podcast I did with Spencer over on his channel to hear more about our impressions of the Dragon Lord. With that being said, those are my memories of the monsters of Dragon Quest I. What are yours? What's your favorite monster from this game, and why is it not the Druin? I'd love to know. Leave your responses in the comments below, and I'll talk to you soon. So one of my major pitfalls with RPGs and being a YouTube content creator is that it's hard to do both at the same time. Both are real investments of time. It takes time to make videos, record videos, be happy with videos, publish videos, interact with videos, and then, with RPGs, it's just another huge time sink. So I find that it's hard for me to make content on RPGs, even though I love them so much. But I thought of a unique way to sort of counteract that contradiction, and that is by doing a log, an RPG log, if you will. So check out my RPG log of an RPG I've been playing and enjoying recently, one that I took off the chopping block so I could play it. That is Shin Megami Tensei Devil Summoner Soul Hackers. Take a look. All right, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's me, Majora T, and I'm out here today to introduce a new series to you, the viewers. It's called RPG Log. I will be logging my playtime in RPGs, turn-based RPGs especially, a favorite genre of mine. Reason being is a lot of times I start turn-based RPGs and I don't finish them for quite some time, so I'd like to sort of document my experience along the way. Today's RPG log is on Shin Megami Tensei Devil Summoner Soul Hackers. Can I add more words in there? Possibly, but they gave me 7. That's still quite a lot. So currently I have 3 hours 39 minutes logged in this play file, but it's also not the first time I've played the game. The first time I played SMT Devil Summoner Soul Hackers, oh my gosh, that's quite a lot to say, I made it about an hour and 45 minutes in. So let me give you a little context. This game is a DRPG, meaning it's a dungeon crawler in a sense. What you see here is a screen that you would see as you're kind of traveling on screen. On the bottom screen, you get a map. It looks sort of like Etrian Odyssey, but it does the mapping for itself as you walk around. And as in the vein of SMT games, it's actually quite challenging. I know that the first time I played it, I made it to the third floor of the basement in the first area of the game. It's like this warehouse area, and the area is frozen over. And I got into the boss of the section. I had fought it and just got crushed. There were a couple of things making it difficult. For one, this is like a monster taming game, so you have to recruit your party members, which are demons. It's kind of the signature feature of Shin Megami Tensei games. And in this game, it's quite challenging to get them to join you through normal conversation, unless you boost your luck statistic, I believe. I'm not entirely sure on that. And so my party was weak. In addition to that, one thing I didn't realize is that this game does not really give you tutorials in the sense of like walking you through like the equipment stores and like the best demon fusions. It lets you really figure all of that out on your own. That's kind of a blessing to a lot of the people who tend to downplay modern gaming as being too hand-holdy. I would say this game is not hand-holdy at all. You're pretty much going in on your own. So one thing I did differently this time as I was replaying it was I explored the overworld terrain, which is really cool. A lot of these 3DS SMT games have really cool overworlds, and in this case there was an area which once you get the CPU device, you can access a number of features like health restoring, like weapon upgrades, like armor upgrades. So I used that to my advantage. I upgraded my two main characters, the unnamed protagonist and Nemissa, who's this lady in the cover. And I went in and I destroyed that boss in that section. So now I'm at like the 3-hour mark and I'm enjoying the exploration. It's still challenging, but there are some things you can use to your advantage. For instance, the 3DS has play coins, so you can spend play coins in order to buy demons. And you know, every day that you walk around with your 3DS in power save mode, you can get like up to 10 play coins. So I had 300 when I used to walk around with my 3DS all the time in New York City. And so, you know, I started the game off pretty strong with a decent number of demons. And so that's actually a really nice implementation of the 3DS Play Coin feature. It's not something you have to buy. It encourages you to get up and walk, bring your 3DS to work, whatever. You know, so I really gravitate towards that. I have a decent party. I still have some things that are you know, some picking points with the game, but I'm early in. So I will get to those next time in the next RPG log when I talk about Soul Hackers. Have you played this game? Would you be willing to try it? It's like $110 on eBay, so good luck. But if you do find a way to acquire it, I'd say this is up there in one of the top 3 SMT games on the 3DS. I know that sounds like ridiculous, but there's at least 7 or 8 of them on 3DS. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next video. T out. Oh, hey, I forgot I was recording a video. That, well, you know, that and 3DS is awesome. And I love me some SMT on the console. But did you know that the 3DS is also a favorite console of mine? Well, if you didn't, now you do. And this leads us into our table topics for the month about legacy consoles. Consoles that leave behind a particularly salient legacy. So, with that being said, you know the deal. Welcome to the table. This is Table Topics. Oh, hey! I didn't see you there. Well, what are you waiting for? Join me. I have mastered, no I have not. I thought I mastered the diagonal pivot in the rolly chair. Maybe next time. Welcome everybody to Table Topics with me, Majora T. And for those who don't know, Table Topics is a series where I invite you, yes you, the viewer, to the table with a gaming related question. Last time I talked about console overload with my boy Alex, and I was glad to see Terry309 got in on the response thread. He had a very nice discourse on the role of consoles in his life. Check it out. So be sure to go watch Terry's video after this one. It is a nice discussion. The premise for today's Table Topics was actually inspired by my good friend FabryLON. He had a great video on a favorite console of mine, not the one that ends in 6.4, but the one that ends in 3DS. And he had a video where he archived his memories and nostalgia with the 3DS and the 3DS library. Take a little preview of that.
In this past year or so, I've managed to increase my 3DS collection, which is a video that I haven't filmed yet. So today I'm going to show you all my 3DS games. So it's not much, it's a decent sized collection I'm very proud of, because I can say for the most part these are all games I enjoy, I think I will enjoy, or I'm interested in.
So the question you may be wondering is, well, what is the table topic then? Well, it's easy. It's legacy. What is the legacy of a video game console that is sentimental to you? So we can kind of call this legacy consoles, if you will. There is no real stipulation to the console you pick. I guess you could say it could be a favorite of yours. It might not be a favorite, but one that merely has sentimental value to you. The 3DS has a lot of sentimental value to me. So it was a console I got around 2013 to play Pokemon and Animal Crossing. And I played a lot of both of those games. But I came to appreciate the 3DS for way more than that, especially over the years. If you were to ask me what is the legacy of the 3DS, this is an RPG machine. And I've always appreciated it as that because I love turn-based RPGs, but as technology has progressed and I've become, more of a career-laden, responsible adult, I find it hard to sit down and focus on games. For some reason, this is like the best of both worlds and really helps me to just sit down and play a game to completion, especially these lengthy turn-based RPGs, which I do love. And, I have a lot of nostalgia for the library. I'll walk you through some of the ones I still own. I've sold off a lot of my collection, but I still kept quite a bit. This right here, as you can see. So, first and foremost, this is not RPGs per se, but it kind of falls under that category of like adventure exploration. I love the Zelda games on here, including this, Majora's Mask, Link Between Worlds, Ocarina of Time 3D. There's a lot of Zelda goodness to enjoy on here, especially for fans of, the more narrative-driven experiences. Link Between Worlds, not so much, but Ocarina and Majora, those are almost, the sole appeal of them is almost story in some regards. A lot of people argue against both for purposes of like exploration or, challenge, although Majora's Mask not so much. Link Between Worlds was a really unique experience too, and I think one that can be enjoyed again and again. Next, there are plenty of turn-based RPGs to enjoy on this thing, but one of my favorite is the Dragon Quest series. I have a ton of these things. I have from 4 up. I have 5 as a card only. I have 6 like a PAL version. I have 7. I have 8. I have a Japanese copy of 9. So, you know, eventually I may kind of like swap these out and get the American version for like the EU and the Japanese one. But oh my gosh, is there plenty of Dragon Quest to enjoy on this unit. It's a shame that we never got like some, you know, compilation of 1 through 3 on here on Virtual Console or anything like that. But these are where the series starts getting really good. Those first 3 games are good for sure, but from 4 up is where it becomes a very powerful narrative-driven experience with traditional RPG mechanics. I love these games. I would recommend any one of them. Maybe not 9. That's dependent on the person, but I'd say 4 through 8, any of those, if you're remotely interested in the particular aspects of any one of them, I would definitely say to go for it. 5 is awesome. A lot of people like 5 because there's a lot of like there's some choice in the game and like how you like determine, you know, some important narrative moments, narrative complexities along the path, whatever. 7 is cool. There's a lot of unique islands to visit. 8 is a lot of people's favorites, you know, emotional. 4 is really emotional. That's a good one. 6 is like a bridge between Dragon Quest Monsters and, you know, the regular Dragon Quest formula. So really good stuff in the whole series. Love it. Love it. This is my Dragon Quest machine. Mwah. It's perfect. Perfection. Oh, by the way, although there is no Dragon Quest 1 through 3, there is a nice spin-off Dragon Warrior 1 clone in Retro Game Challenge. I forget what it's called. It's like Guardian Quest or something. Some knockoff, but it's pretty cool. And lastly is the Shin Megami Tensei series. I love my SMT games when they're good. I'm not crazy about a lot of these like spin-offs like the Dancing All Night or the Personas or whatever. But I do like these darker, more dystopian, apocalyptic kind of journeys. And, you know, Soul Hackers is kind of the cyberpunk-esque one. It's a really good game. I own SMT4 digitally. I'll probably get that again physically at some point. Really cool, choice-driven game, like based on the choices you make, it dictates the path that you take. And then Apocalypse is similar but not as choice-driven, but still a strong kind of like dystopian apocalyptic narrative where Tokyo has been swamped by demons and people are becoming demons and stuff. It's really cool, really good games. And you know, when I think of like the legacy of the 3DS as that, it's really almost at odds with a lot of like the Nintendo history that I know. Now, a lot of people will say like the SNES was, okay, had great RPGs, great. But since then, what has been the RPG machine? It's definitely not the 64. The GameCube has some cool ones. I do like Batten Kaitos, and Fire Emblem was interesting. You know, Fire Emblem is another great one that's on the 3DS. People love Awakening. In some respects, I like that more than the one that's on the GameCube. Shout out to Boston Burf, though, sending me that Path of Radiance. Just all around, I think, like, when I think back to the 3DS, I know it's not the most perfect system. I know, like, you know, one of my main gripes is always, like, the alignment of, like, buttons to the analog stick. But at the end of the day, I don't even care, because once I'm playing, I really get used to it. I don't even think about like the button configuration because of how great the games are. These are not bad controls by any means, and this is a sleek console. I love my new model. I got this year. So, you know, just because, you know, the Switch is out and people love the Switch, I don't think it's quite the same as the 3DS is, even at this time, you know, after all these years. 3DS has been shown a lot of love, you know, in terms of the games available, especially in like 3 of my favorite series. Isn't that crazy? But anyways, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Terry309's response to the last table topics. Check out FabryLON's video on the 3DS. I'll have both linked in the description below. And also be sure to do a table topics video response. I'll throw it in the playlist. What is one console, what is the legacy of a console that is sentimental to you? Your choice. Have at it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. In the meantime, I'm going 3D. Woo! Oh man, I think Majora T Speaks has been a wild success this year. I've been nothing but pleased with it. I've really loved the interactions. I think it's given me some good room to make a lot of good content and engage with the YouTube fan base. One way that you can engage with Majora T Speaks is by joining the Discord and by leaving a question in the Q&A tab. Last time we got a few good questions, some controversial ones, one about Zelda, and this time I think we only have one. I could be missing one, so if somebody in the Discord notices that, be sure to point it out. But be sure to follow the link in the description below to Sworn Brothers, the universal Discord for getting in on the Majora T. So, Terry309 asks, what is the darkest / most upsetting moment I've ever experienced in a video game ever? Well, the fact you added darkest and upsetting. Okay, here's a spoiler that's probably not a spoiler for anyone that had it spoiled for them. Okay, I love the Dragon Quest series, so this is about Dragon Quest V. Close your ears if you don't want this to be spoiled. In the game, you go through cycles of the kid's life. You know, he starts as a kid, then he grows to a teenager, and in between, he does something that gets his father killed. And then after that, you end up in a prison of the monsters and you come out, and it really takes you through these stages of like poverty. I remember, and you know, usually if a game makes me emotional, it's by the end. It's like the credits roll and I feel incredibly emotional and sad about it. But Dragon Quest V is not that way. Dragon Quest V is just a tearjerker throughout. Really good game on many regards. You know, it seems like things are going well early on, and then the antagonist just tears your heart out in several forms. I think he like kills your father and takes your pet saber-toothed cat and like tries to make it his. And so, what a game. I wish I finished it. I'm going to eventually. It's going to happen soon because I'm doing my little Dragon Quest sabbatical. I finished one recently, and I'm working on more with Spencer for RPG Archive. But that is one I cannot wait to get through. Thank you, Terry, for the question. Okay, with that being said, we do have a voicemail number that you can dial at any time to leave a voicemail for the show. I usually play these at the end of the show. You can call into the show and leave a voicemail at this number, 1-917-267-8313. Once again, the voicemail number for Majora T Speaks is 1-917-267-8313. We got a perfectly suited voicemail for this installment from a longtime friend of the show and also of me. He's been a good friend here in my personal space. So this is from VG Mashup. Let's take a listen.
Majora T, this is VG Mashup with question number 2. Second time caller, I guess. And the question is, would you recommend an RPG to us, your viewers, that is under 20 hours long, or somewhere in the vicinity that is actually quite good? Thank you. Keep up the good work. Looking forward to the response.
Hey, VG Mashup. Appreciate it as always. Coming in with the good, hard questions, keeping me on my toes. You know, RPGs are famous for being long and also having drowning sequences, as indicated by my sync. No, joking there. But RPGs under 20 hours is kind of a tough niche to fill. Fortunately, I talked about one of them today, Dragon Warrior 1, which I think I finished in somewhere between 5 and 10 hours. But if that's good is debatable. A lot of people might tell you it's too antiquated. I still liked it. I would recommend playing it. But if that's not up your alley, there are a couple of games that I think you can argue are better than Dragon Warrior 1. One of them is Crimson Shroud on the 3DS. I've actually talked to you about it before. It's a tabletop turn-based RPG where you roll the die and it affects like the damage that you do. It's a very cool art style. I think I finished it in somewhere between 9 and 10 hours, and it's very affordable on the 3DS eShop, as long as you don't mind putting a little money towards a digital download. But if you're more into the physical games, I do have an RPG for you that is related to my beloved Dragon Quest that is short, and people will probably argue with me on this, but I think it's worth it. Is it worth it? Yes, it's worth it. It's Dragon Quest Swords. Okay, I understand. waggle. But it's simple. It's simple, good fun. This game is pretty much on autopilot from the second you start it. And it's really nice to see the Dragon Quest game come to life in full 3D on a console. I know that Dragon Quest 7 and 8 are on PS1 and PS2, but like this was a step up, I think. And I wouldn't say it's a perfect game by any means, and even the hit detection probably isn't perfect, but the sword play is unique. It's fun. I like it. It keeps you on your toes. It's also live action. So you're probably wondering, like, why don't I recommend Dragon Quest Heroes then? Because Heroes is like, more fleshed out than this and probably more responsive. Well, the thing about Heroes is I don't think Dragon Quest Heroes is as strong in terms of a narrative. In this one, you actually have characters that are exclusive to this game and a story that kind of matches. I don't remember it exactly. And it sucks they don't even really advertise it. They only advertise this as experience with transforming your Wiimote. But it is more than that. This is a pretty story-centric game. And I like some of the characters. Like the father has kind of a cool like Irish accent. The lady has kind of a cool French accent. And Dragon Quest Swords. I know people probably won't recommend it, but I will. That's my personal recommendation to you, VG Mashup. Plus, in your words, it is hidden and it's a gem. Thanks for watching Majora T Speaks, y'all. This has been a blast. It's been a great year. Stay tuned for the new year and for more Majora T Speaks and Majora T content to come. Get a haircut sometime before the new year. All right, I'll see you then. Later, y'all.